All right, Claude, let's see what you have. How are you?
Good.
Good enough. All right, so let's head down to course projects. All right, and I'm going to grab a couple views of your dude. Let's close up these other documents. So while I'm doing this, why don't you tell me your overall concept for this thing, since we haven't had a chance to talk about it.
I'm doing a graphic novel, and this creature is a creature that was it was a spore that was trapped on Earth in the Ukraine, and it gets released because of the war, and it combines its DNA with 2 or 3 different species, and it was actually chained beneath the Earth. And during the bombing, that's what releases it. That's why, but it was chained. It was imprisoned there by a species of alien. That's the reason why it has the shackles and all that stuff. I took what you said to heart, so I was like, wow, that's a superbly good idea about the accessories. So this creature basically is it's I would say it's about the size of, I'll say like 4 stories tall.
Okay, so it's about 40 feet high.
Yeah, and it has the top head. It's a composite like different features. The top head is the I call it the attack head. It's like the hog-looking feature with the crab legs coming out of its ears.
Yeah.
That's the one that protects the inner face, which is the smaller face in the middle. That face in the middle is the main face that brings the different eyes. The tentacles beneath its throat, and there's a long, not a mandible, but like a striking pincer that comes out from its throat as well, and there are little squiggly things beneath it. That's how it eats, because the tentacles latch on, and the pincer jabs, and it pulls it into those squiggly things. So
You're talking about these here?
Yeah, he was being ingested.
Okay.
And the scene is winter. It's cold. It's a Ukrainian tank yard. That's where it is. And the way it duplicates is by, once it starts to consume you, it basically desiccates a portion of you mixed with its own DNA, and that thing changes and becomes its minion. But it mixes your DNA with it.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'll tell you my impressions. It's good to hear all your backstory. I think that's fantastic that you've gone through, you thought about that, and you have a reason for everything to exist in there. And I think that you've thrown a lot of ideas into this guy. And you have a lot going on. And I think you've kind of gone full out, and you've added in all these things, and I think now you need to pull it down and tighten it up a little bit. Because what I'm seeing is a bit of confusion in your read, right? So if I look from the side, I get that what you're saying, these are shackles, these are metal plates that are that because he was enslaved. I think that if he's that large, these chains are huge, and you're not necessarily selling everything that you're saying, right? It doesn't. It's not like these legs are all the same size. One, like that's the first thing. Like this is all, and actually, if I even look at the body, so here's the body. Is the width of the body is consistent all the way through. It's kind of like a centipede. The legs are consistently the same size. Yeah, I think now that you've gone through and you kind of, what am I trying to say? The fact that you've gone through and you've put all these ideas into it. I mean, I guess I'm just repeating myself. You're going to have to tighten it up. So I would say at this point, you should go to nature and find out where something similar like this exists. And you need to work to mimic that accurately and follow the reference. The reason why I'm saying that is like you've gone in, you say, okay, here's all my ideas. I'm pulling from my subconscious. It's just throwing it out there and then putting it together. And then now it has to be tightened up because it doesn't have, it's not easily read. Like I'd say the head is difficult to read. Like I can definitely see that this is a head and that these are legs. But beyond that, it's difficult to go, okay, here's a distinct mouth. Or I can't see, the three heads. They don't seem, they're kind of stacked like a, sorry, wrong one. They're stacked like a soda, right? If we look at the front view, let's take all that and delete it, right? So they're stacked on top of each other, but they don't feel integrated. And they feel, I mean, I understand you're saying they're from multiple creatures. Maybe it's just a matter of aesthetic. For me, I feel that this doesn't read. It reads like a boar snout here in the front, but coming back into here, I'm not really sure what's going on. This, you say this is a primary head?
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't read as a primary head. So if we look at examples of chimeric creatures, I'll actually just pull up a chimera. Let's take a look at a chimera. In the most traditional way, chimera. So if you look at this chimera, and this is the one from Final Fantasy, right? So if you look at this chimera, you can see that everything is integrated, and there's been some sort of decision made here to go, okay, we're going to go with a lion-type body, right? And same thing if we look here, right? So it's never like, it's not ambiguous, is what I'm saying. Right now, I feel like these claws, I'm not really sure if they're from a crab or from a scorpion. I'm not really sure what's going on in the body, but I feel like you need to, now that you have this, go in and go, okay, is this from a millipede? Is this from a centipede? Is it from, and then if you're going to make that decision, so let's pull up like a centipede. Right? I think, you got to decide what you're going to do with it. And I think it's a little too much into one thing. Like at least the way that it's constructed right now. Like these tentacles, there are these claws coming off the head. It doesn't feel well placed. These coming down the, you call them the squiggly thingies. You need to determine what those squiggly thingies are. Are they tentacles? And if they're tentacles, find creatures that have something similar to that. You can look at a cuttlefish, right? And a cuttlefish has something that, you could probably pull from for that concept. But you can't just go, okay, I'm going to pull just these tentacles for this one spot. And I mean, you can do anything you want. You know, but I'm saying that if you want it to read well, you have to find some way to integrate it better, where it's not. This isn't the only place where the board qualities exist. That this head, there has to be some sort of consistent design language all the way through. In other words, you know, the claws look one way. This kind of feels very much like, it reminds me of Super Mario a little bit, these spikes, right? But then we get to the faces, and they feel very different and a little disjointed from the legs. So you have to find some balance where you can tie these elements together. If you can't tie them together, if you're having a hard time with that, I would recommend maybe stripping down your design and maybe going with one head instead of three, just to simplify the design and make it a little bit more digestible for you to go through and say, okay, I can come up with a unified look with this, right? With just having this one creature instead of rather stacking multiple creatures on top of each other, because you might be making it overly complex. So, quick notes for you that you can take action on. Let's start with, you know, it's funny, I'm left-handed, so I start writing on the right-hand side of the screen like this, and I was running out of space, so I'm going to try to make a better effort to write on the left here. First thing is find reference for what you want to do. Right? So find reference for what you want to have integrated into here. And then edit. So go through and go, does he need this many legs? Does he need this many pinchers? Is it making it too confusing? If I want this many legs and I want to have, like, you want to have all this going on, then you're going to have to play with size and scale so that it reads. And once again, loop that back into your reference when you edit. Okay? Next thing, I would like you to try removing these heads and stick with, you said there's a head underneath here, right? That has sort of like a, what's that?
It was just two heads.
It's just a two heads. Okay. So then decide on which head to go with. And I wouldn't have it floating above. Right? And I would try doing this with just one head and see if it becomes more simplified for you and easier for you to work with. Right? And then work on integrating that one head, whether it's this one or this one. So work, actually not work, let's try experiment.
Well, what if I got rid of these two heads? So I like the scuttlefish and use the scuttlefish face as a single head that looms upward and connects with the body, and still keep those like that, those tentacles, and have other stuff on the beneath it.
Okay, but I'd say that if you're going to do something like this, you're going to have to kind of look at what you're integrating. Like, how does that play into the rest of the creature? So figure that out, whether that's going to be, let's see, there's some prehistoric mollusk. Let's see.
Because I used the reference from the Japanese giant crab, and the horny orb-weaver spider.
Okay. I would say you can take those ideas and you can roll it into something that'll help you pull it together because it exists in the real world. And that's something like a nautilus, right, where you have something similar coming out of a shell or a hard surface. you could look at, and I always forget the name of this damn thing. There's this prehistoric, there you go, Camarasaurus. It's like a giant squid that sits inside of a conical shell, and that's something else you could pull from. But if you look, if you look at the face here and you look at the face here, they have very similar attributes. That's really weird, by the way. Is that a real thing? I've never even seen that. That's awesome. But yeah, I would look at, I would experiment with the head, right? So whether that's a cuttlefish or using an existing head, you need to experiment with the head. Let's see. Next, let's take a look at your other shots. I would, until you get this sorted out, as far as just the general structure of the body. Yeah, that's a really weird shark. The lower jaw rolls out. Bizarre. All right, so then, yeah, I think that's enough. Those 3 points will help you out. I'd say until then, until you get these things worked out, until you get this worked out, remove the armor and chains. Right, and make that a separate thing that you tackle after the fact.
Okay.
All right. So find your reference. Make your edits with regards to scale and read and deciding how many limbs there's actually going to be and whether they're all working together. Like you got tentacles here, claw here, tentacles here, but they don't read as tentacles. These legs feel very disjointed. They're not set down all on the ground, so it's making it more difficult to read. You're going to have to edit it and then experiment with the head so that you can get a better read here. Okay, and then remove the armor and chains until you have that done. All right?
Okay.
All right, Claude. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day, sir.